Hello, and welcome to the third session of Caregiver Thrive, Learn, Connect workshop. Today we're going to be working on our third session called Bouncing Back. Go ahead and pull that up for you. Before we get started though, what I'd like us to do is to take 10 deep breaths. This helps us to let go of all the outside world and its concerns and focus in on what we're going to be teaching in the here and now. So go ahead, sit comfortably in your chair, close your eyes. Your feet should be flat on the floor and your arms should be supported in a comfortable manner. Try to sit so your shoulders are over your hips. This opens up your chest area and allows you to take a deeper breath. If closing your eyes is difficult for you, you can pick a place on the wall to stare at during this exercise. So I want you to notice your breathing. You don't have to change it right now. Just observe your own breath for a couple of breaths. We're going to ask you to slow down your breathing to help you to relax. To slow down, you're going to do a slow inhale through the nose for a count of 5. Then do an exhale through the mouth for a same count. We'll pause at the beginning and the end of each breath. Are you ready? Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pause. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pause. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pause. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pause. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pause. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pause. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pause. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pause. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pause. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pause. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. When you're ready, open your eyes and come back to the room. Remember to practice this every day and use the deep breathing during a stressful caregiving situation. Now that everyone is ready, let's check in and see how your action plan went from last week. Has anyone started the action plan that they created at the end of the workshop last week? Did you do the activities that were scheduled? If not, what happened? What do you need to do to make sure there are positive activities in your daily schedule? How can you adapt either the activity or your schedule? What did you notice if you did do the positive activities? Did it have any effect on your mood? Now is the perfect time to fine-tune the activities. Rarely does everyone get every activity right the first time. Look over your list and highlight which items you haven't done at all. Is there an easy fix that will help you to do them next week? If not, they may be more aspirational and can be set aside for another time. Replace it with another activity from your list. Remember, the goal is to come away with 10 solid activities that you know will raise your mood when you need them. That will take some trial and error. We encourage you to continue working on this over the next couple weeks until you have a list of 10 solid activities that you'll be able to call on whenever you need them. So today, we're going to be talking about bouncing back or resilience. We'll be doing an activity to show you a way to shift how you view the world to a more positive view. And finally, we'll be taking you through a step-by-step process to help you visualize your support team. Resilience is the ability to bounce back from life's challenges. Research shows that there are many things that make up resilience. Some of these factors you may already feel confident in. Some you may not. Some of the skills or factors that are associated with resilience are the ability to maintain or develop supportive relationships. The ability to make realistic plans and follow them. Communicating clearly. Having some skills in problem solving. And perhaps the most important factor is your confidence in your ability to use these skills. Your confidence in your ability to use these skills are very important. The higher your confidence, the more likely you are to use these skills when a crisis occurs. Confidence is created whenever you are successful in using these new skills. The foundation of resilience is seeing the world as a place you want to be part of. If your view of the world is only negative, it can make bouncing back from a crisis that much more difficult. As you know, caregiving is not an easy task. On top of the grief most caregivers experience, caregivers train themselves to be vigilant, always alert to respond to the next crisis. But this constant vigilance comes at a great cost. People who train themselves to look for what could go wrong may find it difficult to see or experience the positive, what's going right, even if it is right in front of them. The brain works significantly better when a person is positive in their general outlook versus, say, negative, neutral, or stressed. However, just saying be happy doesn't work. People need active method to change their focus to include the positive, while still remaining aware of and responding to the negatives that are part of caregiving. By broadening your view to include the positive in your life, you make room for opportunities to observe the silver linings in your world. The following 3 topics heavily influence a person's sense of well-being and happiness. So gratitude, or the act of giving thanks, can have a remarkable impact on a person's well-being. People who express gratitude on a regular basis report that they feel bad less often, and they also feel better more often. Kind acts, or easily defined as those doing something for someone else. People who volunteer or do kind acts for others on a consistent basis tend to have better psychological well-being, including fewer depressive symptoms, and they report higher life satisfaction. This seems to be especially true for older individuals. And then finally, positive experience, which is really just defined as experiencing something nice. What research tells us is that reflecting on past positive experiences actually influences our current mood. It assists in building positive expectations for the future. So, what is one simple thing you can do to help yourself start noticing the positives in your lives again? Every day, write down something that you're grateful for, a positive experience that you've had that day, and a kind act that you've done or received. So, while some people respond very positively to the idea of journaling, there are many of us that immediately it brings back those horrible essays we had to write in school. And maybe you may not look forward to having to journal every day. However, journaling actually serves two purposes. It focuses your attention on the positives in your life. In essence, it trains your brain to notice the good things around you. If you know that at the end of every day, you're going to be writing down these things, a gratitude, a kind act, a positive experience, you start looking for them in your day. You anticipate the need to write it down. It also acts as a memory aid. You can go back and see exactly what good you've done or experienced. If you remember on the last slide, we talked about going back over positive things that have happened to you tends to change your outlook for the positive. You tend to have more positive expectations in your life. You can see that good things happened to you in the past, so you expect them in the future. The goal here is that for 2 minutes a day, for 21 days in a row, you're going to write down these three things: a gratitude, a kind act, and a positive experience. You don't have to write an essay down for each one. All you need to do is to write down a word, a two, maybe a small phrase that reminds you of what you're thinking of, right? If your gratitude is just the fact that you have a house over your head, you can just write a home or a house down. You don't have to write a whole sentence. If the kind act is the fact that when you went into Starbucks to grab a cup of coffee, someone held the door for you, right? So you can just put door down, Starbucks and door. You don't have to write a whole lot down. At the end of the week, it's important for you to take a look at that sheet of paper that hopefully will have 7 items under each of these categories, and be able to look back and look at the positives that have happened during your day, during your week. Many times, we just don't notice the good stuff that happens. When we're so focused on making sure that, oh my gosh, was that the door that just opened? Did mom walk out? Do I have to worry about, is she now wandering outside somewhere and is going to get lost? And, what's happening? Wait a minute, did my husband just go and put the kettle on? Did he remember to shut the gas off? Right? Did he shut the stove off? Do I have to worry about, the kettle boiling dry? When you're always looking out for something that may cause a crisis, something may happen right in front of you that's really quite positive, but you don't pay attention to it. And the funny thing about our memory, if we don't pay attention to something, it's like it never happened. It doesn't get encoded, doesn't get put into long-term memory at all. So it's just like it never happened. So over time, as we've talked to our caregivers, and we've run this program for a while now, and caregivers have shared with us different tips for success. They recommend that if you can pick a time, the same time every day, they found that they're more likely to actually write something down. So whatever time you pick, first thing in the morning, thinking back about yesterday, last thing at night, kind of thinking back about the day that's happened, whatever works for you. But the important thing is to do it consistently at the same time. Find a way to create a reminder for yourself. Whether it's setting a physical alarm, putting the sheet where you can see it all the time. All of these things can be helpful in helping you to remember to actually do this. If you really, really, really hate writing, you don't have to write. You can maybe find a computer program, right? As long as you're consistently writing, consistently putting something down somewhere where you can look back over it, that's the important thing. Okay. So at this point, what we normally would do in the session is we would stop and we would have everybody write down a gratitude, a kind act, and a positive experience from yesterday. So go ahead and pause the video, take a moment, pull out the handout that's in your packet, and go ahead and write those down. When you're done, come on back. Welcome back. Hopefully you got your first day done. Remember that this should only take 2 minutes in your day. This is not meant to be a long, drawn-out thing. And to retrain your brain to look for and recognize the positives that are happening in your life, you need to do this activity every day for 21 days. So remember that this is one of the activities that you need to continue doing for the next 3 weeks. So we're going to move on and we're going to take a look at another factor that's important for resilience when things get tough. One of the most important factors for resilience, especially for caregivers, is the ability to develop and maintain supportive relationships. These relationships can consist of close friends and family, medical professionals, even neighbors, and structured groups like this workshop, or perhaps a caregiver support group. Caregivers, especially those that care for people over a long period of time, are at risk for isolation. So it's important to identify who's part of your care team. To do that, we're going to be using an Atlas care map. The Atlas care map, developed by Dr. Rajiv Mehta and his team at the Atlas of Caregiving, is a drawing of the family's care ecosystem. It simply shows who is caring for whom and how. So why do this? Why draw a care map? Well, a care map is a diagram of relationships, connections, and interactions. It illustrates the often invisible threads that bind us to others, both those who we're closest to and those who we may have only a passing relationship with. It shows relationships of care. So this is any sort of relationship where you either give or you receive care, support, or advice. It can be with family, friends, coworkers, neighbors, even pets. Creating your own Atlas care map will help you to take notice of these relationships. Sometimes, especially with complex things like a care map and this diagram of relationships, we hold these all in our mind, but it's hard to step back and be objective. But when we actually draw it out and we put it on paper, it can make it a lot easier to be objective, and it can allow us to appreciate what is working well, right? It can also allow us to plan for potential difficulties. What would happen if you got sick? Who could step into your shoes, right? It can help you manage your team, right? Did you even know you had a team? If you did, how do you manage them, right? How do you communicate with everyone? How do you identify missing people or even whole areas of support and care? I also think it's really important because it can be a reality check for you as a caregiver, right? We rarely provide caregiving for one person, right? We tend to have this give and take relationship among all the people that we're in relationships with. And it allows you to easily see, are you giving out way more than you're getting in? So let's take a closer look. So we're going to be using different types of symbols to represent people. An Atlas care map is composed of actors. These are people, pets, professionals, and places, and they're all shown using different type of symbols. We have links, and these are arrows that connect who cares for whom and what the frequency of care is. So as you can see the different types of arrows, the dotted arrow at the very bottom means they occasionally, may offer some care, but the one at the top, the bolded arrow, means that you're frequently giving care, right? And then finally, it's also going to note where the different people are, or where these different actors are, as far as the relationship to you and the person that you're caring for. How far away do they live? This is an example of a care map, right? And note, it looks a little messy, and that's okay. First drafts usually are very messy as you work to figure out where everyone belongs. Kirsty's Atlas care map shows the many caring relationships that exist within her family. You'll note that Christy and Mike's family are spread out across the United States. We have people in Princeton, we have people in Philadelphia, Baltimore, Orlando. So you can see they're quite spread out. In New Jersey, Christy and Mike care for Mike's mother, Maria, who has dementia and who lives next door. You can see that her pet Manny lives with her. So you can see her. Let me see, where's my little laser pointer? You can see Maria right here. And this is Christy and Mike. And here's Manny, her pet. There are several other relatives and professionals who also care for Maria, right? We can see here down here at the Oaks, where she goes for adult daycare. We can see her doctors, Dr. Sandoval, Miller, and Allie here. We can even see some in-home aides, Cindy and Julie, who come by. And then we also have a friend who lives out in Hartford, Maggie. We have Steve, who's her son, Mike's brother, who will occasionally, pop in and give a call. So you can see all the different people who care for her. We can also see how often they provide the care by the type of arrow that's drawn. We also see that Christy and Mike here care for Pablo. That's, you see all the arrows that go to him. Pablo has diabetes. He's also cared for, you can see his sisters here. The school nurse gives him a hand. So you can see all of the arrows going towards Pablo. Mike and his brother Steve, so here's Mike and here's Steve up here. They also care for their father, Arturo, in Baltimore. You can see there are arrows going towards him. While Christy and her sister Janet, here's Janet who lives in Tampa, care for their parents, Eileen and Jim, who live in Orlando. Two nearby friends, Ruth and Angela, provide support to Christy here and to Mike as well, although the line doesn't go to him. There are people who live nearby, and those are all in the middle here. And there are people who live farther away, and you can see they're closer to the edges. And you can see how the different arrows represent the amount of care that are given to the person, or the amount of support that are given. Rarely does a situation stay. This is a snapshot in time. right? If Maria gets worse and needs to move in with Mike and Christy, the map will change. Or if Maria has to go into a memory care unit somewhere, again, the map will change. People often will withdraw their map when these things happen. Okay. So that's what a map looks like. If we were normally meeting in person, you guys would take your attendance poll and we would do a 5-minute break. We're not going to do that since you all can pause at any moment, take a break whenever you need. Okay. If you look in your packet, you will see an Atlas Care Map worksheet. So go ahead and pull that out. This is what you're looking for. You can see it has boxes for you to write things in. You can go ahead and put your name in it if you want. We're going to go through this step by step. So in the first box is who lives with you. I'm going to have you put their names in that box. So if you live with a significant other, if you live perhaps with, if your person that you're caring for is in your household, you can put them there. If you have any pets that provide you with support, siblings, everybody who lives in your household should go in that box. In the next box, you'll notice there's an A and a B. I recommend you put, although you may be caring for way more than 2 people, pick the 2 that are your primary people that you're caring for, the ones that you give the most to. Go ahead, enter the names of the people you care for in the box right below it, who lives with them, and then enter the names of whoever else cares for them. This can be their doctors, their friends, neighbors, anybody who provides them with any type of support or care. And then finally, in the bottom box, we're going to have you write out who cares for and supports you. And this is someone who gives you emotional support. Maybe they come by and they sit with mom so that you can get stuff done. It can be physical support, meaning if mom falls down and you need someone to come and help get her back into her chair. So go ahead at any time through this process, feel free to pause the video long enough for you to fill this out so that you can get everybody down that you can think of. Okay, so on the back side, there is a blank sheet that says this Atlas Care Map of the date, and at the very bottom, it has a small legend. I took the legend, I blew it up, and I put it in the center so that we can see it. If you remember, we talked about actors and links, right? So actors were people, drawn as a little stick figure. Groups of people, stick figures with a box or a rectangle around them. Professionals are represented by a triangle, pets by a circle, facilities and services by a box or a square. And then links are arrows, and depending on how frequently you give care, the more bolder the arrow. So frequent, which is more than just once a day, is a bold arrow. Daily is a solid arrow. Weekly is a dashed arrow, and then occasionally is a dotted arrow. So you should have this sheet. I know it can be a little intimidating to look at the white sheet, but we are going to fill it in step by step together. So in the middle, what I would like you to do is to draw yourself and the other actors who live with you in the middle of the page. Make sure that you draw, or make sure you write in their names, draw a house around them, and then enter the location of that house. So in this example, you can see me, my hubby, my mom who lives with us, our dog spot to the house, and then put the city Palo Alto in there. Remember, you can pause if I go too fast so that you can do your own drawing and add it. This should be in the center of your sheet. Next, what you're going to do is you are going to draw the actors that you care for and those that live with them. So if you remember, here's me, my hubby, my mom, my sister and brother-in-law have a niece. This is the other person that I occasionally care for. They live in Campbell. I babysit her once a week, and occasionally I help my brother with his taxes, so I threw him in there. They live in Bend, Oregon, which is quite a distance from Palo Alto, so he's in the far corner. So go ahead and fill in your own people, those that you care for and those who live with them. Don't forget to put their names in and put their locations at the underneath the house. Next, you're going to fill in the links to show who you care for. So remember, the arrow goes from you to them, and draw the type of arrow that reflects how frequently you care for them. So in this instance, you see from me to my mom, the arrow is really quite broad because I give her a lot of care during the day. I care for my husband every day. I care for Spot every day. I do a weekly babysitting job for my niece, and I occasionally help my brother out with stuff. So in here, you can see I drew my links, again, from me to the person that I'm caring for, and then the links should be representative of how much care that you give. Okay. Next, you're going to draw the other actors and who care for those you care for and their links. So these can be doctors, organizations, friends, clubs. There's a long list. So in this example here, my hubby provides care to my mom. Spot is my mom's favorite, so always in her lap. My sister provides care. She has a friend, Sue, who provides care. The Rosary Club comes once a week. Someone from them checks in on her. She has a couple doctors who provide care. And even my brother will occasionally give her a phone call. You can see by the arrows how much care they provide. So go ahead and fill in on yours the actors who care for those that you care for. Next, we're going to draw in the actors who care for or support you and their links. Again, these are friends, neighbors, agencies, support groups, organizations. In here, you can see my sister provides support for me, my brother. I have a doctor. I go to a support group once a week. I have a best friend, Bob, who makes sure he sends me at least a text every day, checking in, see if I'm doing good. So go ahead and add those actors into your list, onto your paper. And these are the people who support you and their links. Now we're going to draw a line to really circle those who are near you. And these people are those that are close enough that can visit if they need it without much hassle. So 20 minutes of you, depending where you live. If you live in a rural area, that 20 minutes may be a little bit longer. If you live in the middle of the city, that 20-minute time period may or may not be realistic. But these are the people who are near. Some people can choose to include their online friends in the near cycle just because they're more accessible than, say, somebody who lives farther out. So go ahead and circle those that live near. And then you're going to circle those that, and do another circle for those who live far. Now, there might be some people who are outside of the circle, right? If you're thinking about this as a care map for your mom, right? And there may be people, let's say, who care for your niece, who may be on that list, who have nothing to do with your care map. You can leave them outside of your circles because they really don't belong in the care map that you're studying, if that makes sense. So it's important to remember that a care map captures a moment in time. So things change, right? And it may be in 5 years from now, you may need to redraw the care map altogether, or it may just be something that you modify as you go. People come into your care ecosystem and people leave your care ecosystem. So that can be represented in the map as well. It's important to share your care map. Find a friend, find someone on your team, because you know what? We don't always remember everybody that's part of our team. I first drew my care map 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And when I look at it, I remember additional things that I can add in, right? Or things that have changed that I can take out. So it's important to get other eyes on your care map because they can be very helpful. I had one caregiver that I worked with who did her care map. And one of the things that she noted is she was positive she had her support system locked down and everything was good. When she sat down and she drew her care map out, she noticed an interesting fact that she never would have had the insight for. All of her support was emotional. If something happened to her husband and her husband fell, there was no one nearby who she could reach out to for help. And what she ended up doing was really working on filling that hole, right? This is information for you guys. It's not something that you need to take in and feel judged on. It is something that is done for you so that you can note where things are working and where things perhaps may need a little bit of shoring up. And it gives you an opportunity to think of ways to make that work. There's a handout in your packet, questions to think about. When you finish writing your care map and you think you've got it settled, it's a good idea to look at it again and think about who's really important and what happens when they're not there, right? What are ways that you can get a plan B going? Are the different people in your care map aware of each other and what everyone is doing? Why is that important? Well, you'll be amazed at how many people think you're getting help somewhere else, right? Especially for those of you who are, oh, I'm the only one and nobody wants to help me. Some people are very intimidating or are intimidated by those that they feel are competent, right? You look like you got everything handled, everything is going well. They're not going to offer to help because everything looks like it's going well. They may not be aware that you need this help. What kinds of care and skills do people provide? Think broadly. There's the practical, right? Medical assistance, transportation to and from the doctors, to the grocery store, research, doctor suggests a new treatment. Who does your research for you? Do you do it all yourself? Do you tap into the medical library at the local university for them to give you a hand? Many, especially academic-based hospitals have hospital libraries where the librarian would be happy to help you find that information, as well as social. right? So who gives you companionship? Who brings laughter, comfort into your life? Did you forget anyone important? You'll be amazed at how many people forget spouses and siblings until they take another look at their map and go, oh my God, I forgot them, and draw them in real quick. Are there relatives or friends who could be more involved? Right? Are there professionals or services that are missing and needed? What's good in your current situation, and what would you not want to change? One thing that I think is really important for your own mental state is take a look at the arrows that leave you and the arrows coming back. They're never really going to be equal, but there should be some type of balance between the two. You shouldn't have all of the arrows leaving you and nothing coming in. If you have that situation, then you really need to focus in on how do you get support? How do you find, or how do you grow your support? So that will be very important for you. If you notice that all of your arrows go out. There are other questions on your handout. These are all things that you need to think about, or at least you might want to think about. Some of the takeaways from this session: the ability to bounce back from a crisis is something that you can work on and make better. You can rewire your brain to look for the positives, and that this can increase your sense of well-being. So, and then it's important to identify your care team. This will help you to appreciate what's working well, plan for future difficulties, manage the people that are involved, identify missing people and services, and communicate with everyone. It's important. Do not forget that communicate with everyone, right? So different people need different methods of communication, as I'm sure most of you are well aware. So let's take a moment and let's work on our action plan. So we know that it's important to limit the amount of changes you make in your life, right? So that's why we offer choices in these things. So we're going to encourage you to pick one. Either look for the positives, right? Use that 3 paths to happiness exercise, 2 minutes a day for 21 days. Write down a gratitude, a kind act, or a positive experience so that you can increase your awareness of the positives that are in your life. Or you can work on refining your Antlers care map, right? Your first draft was done in class. It's important to sit down, to review it, and add to it when you're home, right? Answer the review questions in the handout. Share your care map with someone on your team. Sit down and review it and go over it. They may actually have things to add that you may not have thought of. So grab a pen and paper. Let's go ahead and let's get this started. Go ahead and pick one, either looking for the positives or refining your Antlers care map. Remember, a written plan has more weight than one that you just keep in your mind. So it's important to write this down as you go. Set a deadline, right? So you've picked one, you've written that down at the top. Now let's set a deadline. So for instance, in this, we're going to pick that 3 paths to happiness. So I'm going to start my 3 paths to happiness tomorrow, and for the next 21 days, I'm going to journal a gratitude, a kind act, and a positive experience. So what's your motivation? Why did you pick this one? The more personal you make this, the better it is, right? So I need more positives in my life. My sister said I was a drag to talk to because all I talked about was all the bad things that were happening. And I just feel like I can't even think of anything positive, right? So that's my motivation. Next is, what are you going to pair it with? It's best to add some, when you're going to do a new task, it's good to pair it with something that you already consistently do. In this instance, I'm going to do it right before I read every night before I go to bed. So I've taken my sheet and I've slid it right into my book, and I'm using it as a bookmark right now. So when I open my book, it's right there. I remember to do it. So some people are fine with that. They're good to go. It's no worry. But if you find yourself saying, well, I'm going to do this and I'm all excited about it, but it just doesn't seem to take off. Well, maybe the task is too large and you need to break down the steps. Sometimes it can feel a little overwhelming when you have a big change that you're making in your life. So it's easier to break it down. In this instance, maybe I hate that sheet, so I'm going to use a notebook and a pen. So I'm going to go find that. I'm going to put it on my nightstand, right? On top of my book. And then I'm going to start tonight before bed and I'm going to journal for 21 days. So I've broke it down into steps that I can check off as I go. My reminders, whether you use a computer, you can use your smartphone, you can use a calendar, you can use Post-it notes, whatever you use, just remember to set your reminders so it helps you to remember. At this point, usually we encourage our facilitators to ask if anyone can think of any problems that they may run into, and then brainstorm different ideas and solutions that may work for them. Same thing with you. If you think, oh, I never remember things. Well, what are some of the ways you can remember? What are some of the different plans that you can make? Maybe you need more than one reminder if you find yourself forgetting and not remembering stuff. So anticipate the problems. And if you don't, remember, just because it didn't work for you today doesn't mean you can't start it again tomorrow, right? So you don't quit just because it doesn't happen the first time. Figure out what the problem was, brainstorm different solutions, and try it out. Okay, so I'm going to encourage you once again to go to the participants page on the website. The URL or the web address is right there at CaregiverTLC.org. You're going to select participants. You're going to use the passcode CARE. If you go down to the very end, what you will see is resources there that are available to you that can explain a little bit more about the material that we've covered in today's class or in today's session. That is all optional. But I do encourage you to go through and kind of look through and see there are different videos you can look at, different articles you can read, different websites that may prove valuable to you. So go ahead and take a look. And if you, again, have any questions whatsoever, you should feel free to contact your facilitator and they'll be happy to work with you to answer any questions. Hope you all have a great day and thank you for coming. Bye-bye.